All right, here we go. Welcome into Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior. No matter where you are or how you're tuned in, we appreciate all of you for watching 76ers Now. On the show today, a lot of Sixers buzz heading into tonight's NBA draft. And speaking of that, it's one of the biggest events of the year for us here at Chat Sports, and we're going to be covering it live on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel. Start with us 2 hours prior to the start of the draft. We go live beginning at 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific. That top three going to be very, very interesting as Victor Wembanyama figures to go number one to the San Antonio Spurs. Who goes after that? Is it Brandon Miller to the Charlotte Hornets or Scoot Henderson? Every single pick, all 58 of them, will be live rocking with you. Analysis, prospect breakdowns, reacting to it live. Hope you subscribe and join us on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/chatsportstv. Without further ado, let's take a look at everything going down right now on the 76ers front. Could a Tobias Harris trade happen during the NBA draft? According to the Philadelphia Inquirer, this doesn't have to really do with the timeline, but instead the teams that have made calls to the Sixers about the availability for Harris. According to Keith Pompey, it's the Detroit Pistons, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Indiana Pacers. Toby's scheduled to make $39.2 million this upcoming season. He will enter this campaign on an expiring deal. That gives him some value to teams that are looking to bring in a guy who can probably give you 20-plus points per game on that expiring deal. If it works out, you re-sign him to a price tag far less than $39 million. Or if you're looking to absorb a large salary cap number, Toby fits that category as well. Draft night trade, according to everything that we've been hearing, everything that's kind of out there, could be unlikely. And right now, the Sixers' asking price is said to be high. But everybody's really overreacting to that. I think Tobias Harris has a lot of trade value. Expiring contract, solid offensive player who can give you 20 points per game, 45% from the field and 40% from three. In any negotiations, the asking price starts high because you don't want to get fleeced on a trade. But then you lower it from there to try to maximize what you can get back. And that's what Philadelphia is doing with Harris. It's not like he's a slouch. He's just been overpaid for the production that he's given the Sixers in the 4 years that he's been playing for Philadelphia. You look at the numbers in 2022-2023 as the fourth offensive option, almost 15 points per game, 50% from the floor, almost 39% from three. Year before that, 17 points per in 2020-2021, 19.5 points per game, and prior to that, 19.5. He has always been consistently available, rarely injured. And I just think if he goes to a different team in which his offensive role grows, he could give that team a lot more production and fit better than what he does, and that fit with the Sixers. So those three teams that the Philadelphia Inquirer had mentioned, we now look at some Tobias Harris trade targets if those are the three teams that are interested in Toby. Buddy Hield is a terrible defensive player, but he might be a better fit as a catch-and-shoot, standstill shooter who can also shoot coming off some of those dribble handoff actions or coming off of screens in which he can catch and shoot. He doesn't improve your team defensively at all, but offensively, could he fit a little bit better? Bojan Bogdanovic, I think, is a good player who has seasoned playoff experience. I would like him, and he's a better defensive player than Buddy Hield. Caris LaVert isn't really a Daryl Morey guy. He's not the most efficient player. As far as his fit, kind of needs the ball in his hands like a Tobias Harris. He's not really that catch-and-shoot, stand-in-the-corner type of player, but maybe he could be a little bit of a better playmaker, and right now doesn't fit all too nicely with Cleveland, as right now they have Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen as the centerpieces of that roster. Now, if a Harris trade does not happen on draft night, could it happen over the next couple of weeks? This breakdown from Bobby Marks does tell a story here. It should be noted that we are still operating under the 2017 collective bargaining agreement, 125% rule on outgoing and incoming salaries of $19.5+ million in a trade. That changes to 110% for first or second apron teams starting on July 1. So a trade could happen if it doesn't happen on draft night somewhere in the next couple of weeks. For all the salary cap nerds out there, that's a good breakdown for you. I failed elementary algebra at Temple University, so I don't often like doing a lot of math. Will the Sixers trade Harris on draft night? Just give me a simple Y for yes or an N for no. And if the Sixers do make a move, either tonight or whenever they make a move year-round, we're here to talk about it here on the show. It's 76ers now, approaching 11,000 subscribers. More subscribers that we get equals more videos. We've had so much success here on the channel that I went live last week. The numbers were fabulous, so make sure you hit that sub button. Let's continue to grow. And if you want to interact with me on social media, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Senior. Don't be a stranger. Reach out. Say what's up. Say what's good. A lot of people have done that over the last couple of weeks since I've been plugging the social media pages more often. It's been great to hear from you. As for the latest on James Harden and Fred VanVleet, what is happening with both of these players here? Let's talk about it. Again, that's why you subscribe. News, rumors, and analysis. Action Network with some reporting here. The two teams most strongly attached to Fred VanVleet, Rockets, 76ers. It would not be incorrect to describe VanVleet as the James Harden consolation prize at this point. If Harden returns to Houston, the Sixers will look to construct a sign-and trade for Fred VanVleet. Gary Trent Jr., by the way, opted into his contract, so that's news on the Raptors front. If the Sixers re-sign Harden, which Houston has projected they feel is likely in recent days, then the Rockets will look to a big money short-term contract with VanVleet. So for VanVleet, it looks as though it could be the Sixers. It could be the Houston Rockets. I'm not ruling out a return to the Toronto Raptors either. If you could pick one to play alongside Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid, who would it be? JH for Harden, FVV for Fred VanVleet. As for a draft night maneuver for the Sixers, could Philadelphia trade into the NBA draft? Daryl Morey is always aggressive, so you always have to think about that possibility as something that could come to fruition. And if the Sixers look to trade into that second round, a couple of players that they might look to target. They only had 3 pre-draft workouts in the lead-up to the 2023 NBA draft. Reportedly, they did meet with the former #1 high school recruit in Amani Bates, who went to Memphis, then transferred to Eastern Michigan, averaged more than 20 points per game. We've talked about him here on the show. Julian Phillips could fulfill a need for Philadelphia at that forward position. Jordan Walsh out of Arkansas. City Sissoko actually played alongside Scoot Henderson with the G League. Needs to improve on his free throw shooting as well as his three-point shooting because he only knocked down just more than 30% of those three-point attempts, but was a very good player in the G League last year. And then if you're looking for a combo playmaking guard, Traquavion Smith out of NC State could fit that bill as well. Let's round out today's show with this. There's been a lot of chatter in NBA rumor circles, a lot of chatter on 76ers Twitter that the Sixers could look to trade for Paul George. The Sixers should call the Clippers about Paul George. He would really fulfill a lot of the needs that the Sixers have. A premier wing player who is excellent on both ends of the floor and would be an immediate upgrade from Tobias Harris. Now, the contract that will show you for PG-13 is a little bit more than Tobias Harris at $45.6 million this upcoming season and then $48.7 million in 2024 and in 2025. If we can look at the numbers that he's put up over the last 4 years, he is a very good player, a very good scorer, who's also one of the best lockdown wing defenders in the NBA. The biggest problem with Paul George is that he has not played more than 50-plus games in 5 seasons. Now, when he is on the floor, he's extremely productive. He is a shoo-in to average more than 20 points per game. That's what he's been able to do over the last 4 years. And the shooting number is pretty damn good. He'll hover around 45% and then the upper 30s as far as knocking down some shots from downtown. The injuries are definitely a concern, but if you have him healthy for 1 or 2 years or the remainder of his contract for those 2 years, That could be a great move for Philadelphia if the Clippers want to change the scenery there, still go with Kawhi Leonard, but they bring in Tobias Harris because that hasn't really worked. Toby played his best ball with Los Angeles prior to getting traded to the Sixers from that Elton Brand deal, and then Paul George immediately helps out Philadelphia. They become a better defensive team as well, which is a need here. Mark Stein with some reporting on Paul George. League sources tell the Stein line that the LA Clippers have left various rival teams with the impression through their draft week conversations that they are, at a minimum, attempting to gauge Paul George's trade value. And to hear some describe it, giving real consideration to the idea of disassembling the Kawhi Leonard and Paul George tandem. Contrary to popular belief, Paul George is a good playoff player. He is a playoff bucket getter. And a lineup of Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid, I think makes the Sixers a lot better this year than they were last year. Part of the reason why I'm lukewarm about Toby coming back and James Harden coming back, you're trying to sell the fan base on basically running it back with the same team that lost to the Celtics in 7 games in the second round. So basically you're saying, look, we're going to run it back with the same roster, but we're hoping the coach, only Nick Nurse, is the one that get us over the top. Coaching matters for sure, but the players have to get it done, and it's the same players who choked away that lead 3-2 against Boston with an opportunity to close that series out. Game 6 in Philadelphia, they squandered that opportunity, and from there, I told you, the series was over, and that rang true. So if you want the Sixers to trade for Paul George, hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. Don't forget to join us for our draft coverage tonight, beginning 2 hours prior to the first selection, which inevitably is going to be Victor Wembanyama. We'll see you tonight. Subscribe to the show, and we're going to continue to give you great coverage here on 76ers Now.